People often say that everything was better in the old days. When I first started playing men's tennis, I was repeatedly faced with a very illogical situation. But I managed to turn it to my advantage. These days, the future tournaments serve as a gateway to international adult tennis. When I first started out in the late 1980s, there were what were known as satellite tournaments. Back then, it wasn't possible to earn ATP points by playing just 1 week at these entry-level tournaments. To qualify for the Masters, players had to compete in a series of 4 tournaments in a single country. The Masters itself was then contested by the top 24 players from those tournaments. This meant players had to stay in that country for 5 weeks and play the entire series of tournaments. This mode wasn't for everyone, as it required a certain mental toughness. Conditions were usually far from comfortable, and cabin fever was a common result. When the rules for these tournaments were modified, meaning that instead of the required 4 tournaments plus the Masters, only 3 tournaments plus the Masters were played, it provided some relief. At least for many other players. I didn't really care, and that actually worked in my favor. Over the course of the weeks these tournaments lasted, I heard many players complaining about how long they would had to be there and how much they were struggling. Many players started off very well in these tournaments, but as the weeks went by, their performance kept getting weaker. For me, it was exactly the opposite. That's why I enjoyed listening to the players complain. You see, it's important to know that at the last tournament, the Masters, the most points were awarded. Every win there was almost equivalent to a challenger tournament. So I told myself, okay, the first tournaments are just for preparation, but the Masters are where it all comes down to. And I actually managed to win a lot of Masters tournaments. It seemed really foolish to me to waste so much time and energy in one country, only to then fail to perform when it really mattered. All because of my own whining and weakness. I still remember back in 1992 when I flew to Brazil to play in a satellite tournament. The first 2 tournaments went very badly. I lost in the second and first rounds, and in the third tournament I even had to play in the qualification because the results from the first 2 tournaments counted towards the rankings. Most players would have called it quits after such a start and flown home. I made it to the semifinals in my third tournament, went on to win the Masters and even finished second in the series, returning home with a lot of ATP points. I think it is still very important to be tough on yourself, even in today's world, and that's why I'm all the more pleased that 2 of our players demonstrated that toughness last week. Sebastian Sorger played his third and final tournament of a future series in France. The first 2 tournaments hadn't gone particularly well, and playing another one just a week later can be a challenge for many players. On top of that, Sebastian wasn't feeling healthy, so the outlook wasn't ideal. It was all the more gratifying then that Sebastian made it to the final, where he fell short against the Swiss player Stricker. For me, this is further proof of Sebastian's growth. In the past, he was the kind of player who always had to feel at his best in order to believe he could achieve anything. He has proven to himself that he has broken out of that pattern. A 3-week tournament series also came to an end for Slava Belinsky. He was in Croatia. The first two tournaments didn't go as planned, and he was dealing with physical issues as well. So I was skeptical about how the final week would go. But Slava performed very well and managed to win the last tournament. For me, this is a positive sign of his development. He managed to overcome his fears, and these experiences are often even more important than winning a tournament. As described in my example with the satellites, or in the case of the two players who achieved success in a tournament series last week. The right mindset lays the groundwork for the possibility of a successful outcome. There is no guarantee for this outcome, but the fact that both players were rewarded for their efforts is a good sign for their future development. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.